Hello and welcome back to the channel with me, the Orienteering Kid, where today we're in Småland for day 2 of the Swedish Forest Cup. Yes, we are back for our second day in Sweden, ready for another challenging day of forest trailo set by Christian Emberg, with Cecilia and Anna Emberg advising as well as Libor Forst. And as always, these events are found on the Tempo Simulator, the link to which can be found in the description of this video. Now, yesterday's event was very tough. I did end up making quite a few errors during it, but I think with this being my weaker area of trailo, I don't think for me it was too bad a day, and we're learning and hopefully we'll progress by the end of this week. And yeah, I'm excited to see what he's got in store for us today, because as much as it was tough yesterday, it was still really fun. But yeah, let's jump straight into it. We're going into the Swedish Forest Cup section and we're on day 2, where today it's a 1 to 5,000 map with 2.5 meter contours. So we've doubled the scale but halved the contours from yesterday. It's going to be 4 stations, and again it's going to be a 60-second penalty, with the zeros tolerance being 4 meter, no side problems. This terrain was also previously mapped as 1 to 15,000 and it's just been scaled, and the pitches are again 120 degrees, so we've got to remember that. There was a thing yesterday where I thought it was on the north side, and so even though there's no side problems, zeroed it, but actually because it's the 120 degree photo, it was on the east side, so that is going to be something to look out for again. And also zoom can be useful, so I'm going to have to make sure my mouse is ready if I do want to zoom. As always, my answers will be appearing in the top right hand corner of the screen, so you can see exactly what I'm putting correct or wrong with the black or red letters at the moment that I do. And without further ado, let's have a go at day 2 of the Swedish Forest Cup. And here is station 1. Okay, there's all the hills and the background. I think I've got 9 or 6 kites. That hill back there, so if that's the tower, that's the hill. That's 1 bump. That looks like it could be 2 bumps of Bravo. The hill there. That one's too close to the path. That one's too big. I think that's a 0. That takes us to the Echo Hill, I believe. The hill right at the front would be Alpha, and that hill I believe is now the Foxtrot Hill. So I don't think that station was actually too bad. 31 seconds I think could be fairly quick for that, although station 1 yesterday wasn't too bad either, so we will have to see how it progresses. I think the hills were fairly clear though in the background, and you could see the tower on the path, and that is how I knew exactly along the path we were. And I think the second task was on a smaller hill that we couldn't quite see because it was a form line rather than a full hill, and I think again it was Foxtrot at the final task. But yeah, that one didn't seem too bad at all, although it could get a lot worse now as we go into station 2. Okay, Alpha's right at the left hand side, so don't forget that. There's the hills, that's a bold, what have we got? Is that the rough open with scattered trees? If that's the boundary, then that could be where that is. I can believe that's Bravo. I can also believe that one would be a 0 that way. This seems to be working out. That would be Foxtrot. That boulder there could be Echo. And we're back on that boulder, we want that side. I think that's Bravo again. And again, that wasn't too bad a station. You just had to remember that Alpha was on the left hand side of the photo and not to mispunch them all. So if you didn't notice Alpha, you might have got quite a lot wrong there. We'll have to see afterwards. And I think there was a double Bravo. It was on the end of the spur near the boulder, but it was also on the western side of that boulder. So it will be interesting to see at the end whether that one is actually a double Bravo. And I think Alpha was in the scattered tree section, so it couldn't have been the second task, but we will have to check that afterwards. I think everything seemed to match up again, and so we will now go on to station 3. Okay, so they're quite small. Remember Delta at the back. This is the scattered trees, but again, so that hill. Okay, that's the bare rock, that works. Top of the hill would be Bravo. That boulder back there I think is a 0. Yeah, that's got to be a 0. Right at the back. So that could easily be delta. No, but I think delta's on the closer hill. That one's Foxtrot, and that boulder would be Charlie. And that was definitely a much harder station. I had noticed it was a similar area to before, because I saw the scattered trees to the left hand side, and so I was able to place the Bravo hill fairly quickly, and that seemed to fit the bare rock of yellow with Foxtrot on it. The wide angle might have thrown me a bit though, and I think the second task might have been Echo, so we will have to see that afterwards, but I think I'm confident with the rest of it. The third task on the hill, I think Delta was on the closest hill, but again I'm not completely sure. But yeah, that was another good station. I'm definitely still enjoying this, even if they are tough, but we will go on to the final station of the day, which is Station 4. Okay, Alpha's right at the back. Where's the 6th kite? Oh, it's hiding behind there. Hopefully there's a speck on my screen. So don't forget that. That hill? That could be that hill. That fits there, so is it the Alpha hill? I don't think Alpha's on top of a hill. I think that's a 0. Coming out, that's a spur. Or is it the wrong spur? That goes into the depression, that then comes up. I think that's the wrong spur, but I think that's another 0. Boulder. There's a boulder there, boulder there. So it's that boulder, so that is another 0. I'm putting too many zeros here. Top of the hill is Foxtrot, and that spur there is Delta. And with that being my longest station, I think I've probably got the first couple wrong, but we will have to see about that. I think that was definitely the hardest station of the day. Let's go back and look over them. Now this station, immediately I saw a path to the left hand side, and there's a path here, and then I saw that tower, and that's going to be the T-shaped symbol here. So I was able to place myself immediately. You can then see the hill that goes along the back. That does seem to have Alpha, Bravo, Charlie and Delta on, and I believe they are at the peaks at least of some of these hills. So in working along, you have this long spur here with Alpha on the top, so I believe that's this form line here of the small circle, and then we go down and then we go back up again and we hit another hill, and that seems to be where we need to be for Bravo. So I'm pretty sure that one is Bravo. I think Charlie is going to be on the other end of this hill, so I think that one is Bravo. And then we come to this form line here, and for me, I think I can now see it, but I was looking at this tower and I was looking at the direction this points, and I wanted it to point to the small hill we wanted, and it seems to point midway between Echo and Foxtrot. So I do believe that Echo is on this hill here and Foxtrot is on this contour here, so I do want it directly between Echo and Foxtrot, and so that one will be a 0. That task did take me the longest though. I think quite a few of you might have put Foxtrot, but you definitely would have seen as we progressed through the station that it couldn't have really been Echo or Foxtrot. As we go to Echo now, as I think I've described correctly, on the end of that hill, and so I think that one is Echo. And then we come to the spur that we used to try and find task 1. Going along here, we reach the first hill, so I think that one is Alpha. And then we come to this contour out the front as well, near the tower, and I believe Foxtrot is on that hill. So I think I've probably got all of those right, and I don't think it was the hardest of stations to start on. I think what helped is we didn't go to Charlie or Delta, because I can't really tell you where either of them on the map are, but I think that was quite a nice station to open in on, so I'm happy with that one. Station 2 then got a bit harder, but I think it's still workable, and I don't think it was too bad. The main thing I saw here was it gets a bit more open here where Alpha is, and you have to remember that Alpha is here, otherwise you will mispunch most of them. And you can see there is a vegetation boundary here with some open land with scattered trees, so I think that is where Alpha is. And so when going around, we reach the first hill from that patch, and that must be the hill here, and there is a boulder on the top of that hill, and you can just see the boulder behind that tree, I believe, and Bravo does seem to be at the top of that hill. So I think that one is Bravo. I think that one's definitely Bravo. It took half the time for the station to get there, but I am happy with that one. And then we go to a boulder field, and to me we're going left of Bravo, so it can only be Alpha, and I believe Alpha's in the scattered trees area here, so I think that boulder field is possibly what's through there. You can see there's some rock back there, but I believe that one is a 0 as it's not near any of the controls. I can definitely believe some of you might have thought you got the first task wrong and put one of these 3 though, so we will see how many did that afterwards. We then go across the photo and we go to a spur that is on the right hand side of the hill that we answered for Bravo, and if we come down we can see we go down and we hit these boulders around here, and then we go up to the spur, and I think that is what we hit with Foxtrot. I can't really see anywhere else in the photo it could be, and so I'm happy with that one being Foxtrot. And then we come to a boulder, and there does seem to be a couple of smaller boulders nearby, but I think if we're looking towards the hill and we look to the right hand side at these 3 controls, the first boulder we seem to reach is the boulder that Echo is in front of. Remember, it is Echo, not Delta, because of Alpha here, and it is definitely on the south side of that boulder, so I'm confident that that one is Echo rather than Delta or Charlie, which I think are on the smaller boulders. And then we come up to this task, and I think we've got another duplicate task here, like with one of the days in the Central European training week, because if we look here, we want Bravo at the top of the hill, and it's definitely at the top of the hill right next to the boulder, but now we're on the boulder and we want the western side, which is the side that Bravo is on, so I think that one is Bravo again. I quite like that. I think it's a good use of the area. We've definitely had a task that could be Bravo before, a task that could be Alpha, a task that could be Foxtrot, and a task that could be any of those 3, so we have used all the controls in at least one task, so I quite like the fact we've gone back to Bravo. I think that's a good one. But overall this station was harder than the first station, so I'm expecting the percentages to be slightly lower, but I think there were some key things to anchor on, like the scattered trees area over by Alpha. And if you notice here, we do actually stay in a similar place, because you can see the scattered trees area here, and this was the hill that Bravo was on before, and the spur with Foxtrot before. And now we come to this bit. I think to me, now we've noticed this hill, you can just about see the clearing over there, and this seems to be the hill that Bravo was on before, now got Alpha and Bravo on it. And then you look around and you can see that fits with the re-entrant here with Charlie in it, and then you just about see the bare rock of yellow, and that must be the bare rock here, so everything seems to fit. And then we want the top of the hill, and in looking over here, that's the boulder which Bravo was next to previously, so Alpha is slightly further down the hill, and I believe Bravo is right at the top of that hill. So I think that one is Bravo, and I'm fairly confident with that one. We then come to a boulder that is just outside the re-entrant, the other side of the bare rock. So the only control I could see that is the other side of the bare rock is Echo, but I think that's way too far away. It might be on this boulder here maybe, or the form-lined hill. And I think Charlie going through the re-entrant must be on this boulder here. I think it's a bit weird with the curved angle, but I can't see any boulders to the left-hand side of Charlie, so I think that one is Charlie on this boulder, and we want the boulder next to it. So I think it's this boulder here we are actually going for, so I think that one is a 0. That is quite hard to spot though, but I didn't quite feel like any of the controls were in the right area, so sometimes your gut's telling you it is a 0, and I think I was right in that case. Then we came to this 0, and I don't know whether I believe this one is Delta or a 0. I'm looking back there and I'm thinking that Delta is on the first form line here, or at least on the bare rock. I don't think it's far enough back to be this form line here and on the hill behind, so I think that one is a 0. You can see it was my longest task in the station, but I think that's quite hard to tell, so we will have to see afterwards whether that was a mistake or not. And then we come forward to a spur and we can see it's the yellow, so it's going to be the bare rock, and with placing Charlie and the other boulder as these 2, we come forward and you can see that one is the Foxtrot spur, so I'm happy with that one being Foxtrot. And then we go to the boulder next to the boulder we had in task 2, and I think that one is Charlie now, as it's the left hand one as we come up the spur. So again, I'm slightly less confident that I've got that all right, but I'm still fairly happy with that. It's just the third task that's thrown me a bit. We'll have to see afterwards. It's this final station which I think was a lot harder. This first task was definitely quite hard to tell with all the contours where we were, and I have map put 3 zeros, so I'm thinking one of them will definitely be wrong. The first thing I saw here were some hills in the background, and it did take me a while to spot Charlie, but it is there. So there are 2 massive hills here, so where could they really be? Because where we are on the map with this circle is actually a depression. You can see the 2 tags going inwards, so we must be looking at a slightly different area, but that doesn't mean it's maybe Echo as the correct answer. So how are we going to tell? Well, I looked to the right on the map and I saw these massive bits of contour here, and with contours being 2.5 meters, those hills must be at least 5 meters in height, and so that could easily be this massive hill here and then the hill that Foxtrot is on. So I think those are the correct hills. We then have to go to the left and identify whether we think Alpha is in the right place, and I'm now wondering whether actually it is. I think it might be actually. I think that might be the depression there, or it's the wrong side of the depression. That could be possible because it does go further down there. So maybe it is actually a 0. I've just got it right for the wrong reasons. I'm not too confident on that, so we'll have to have a look at that later, but I'm definitely going with 0 over Alpha at this point. We then come here to a spur, and this was confusing me for a moment because I saw Bravo on this bit here as a spur, and so if this is the spur, then this bit's going to be a re-entrant, not a spur. But in looking at the tag here, you can tell that this area is going to be higher than this side, and in doing so I'm now thinking that maybe Bravo is on the spur, but I'm struggling to make the contours fit, so I'm not really sure whether that one is meant to be Bravo or 0, honestly. I'm going to stick with 0 because I don't see the contours fitting quite as I want them to, but yeah, that's definitely going to have to be one to look at later. This 0 I am more confident on, however. I saw Echo on a rock and I saw another rock here, and so in looking at these rocks we want the northern one, which is the left hand one, and so it must be at least this one, or there's another one further this way that we can't see because it's hidden by the bushes maybe, but that one is definitely a 0 because it's on the wrong rock, and I'm happy with that. And then we go up to the contours that we saw before on these hills, and we want the right hand of the hills, and we want the northern part, which is the left hand part of the right hand hill, and if we go down and up before we reach the peak we hit the Foxtrot kite, so I'm happy with that one being Foxtrot. And then we come forward to a spur on the left hand of the hills, and it comes downwards here and kind of points towards these rocks as well, and that does seem to be what Delta is on just there. So at most I think it's probably 2 to 3 mistakes today. At the very most they could all be right. It's mainly the first 2 tasks in this station which were throwing me a lot, but I think it was potentially a lot easier than yesterday, so I think there's probably going to be some quicker times, so I don't really know where I'm going to be placed today. I thought it was another very good day though. I have enjoyed it a lot, but let's go have a look at the positions for today, and you will see I am in 14th, so that's a lot better than where I was yesterday. However, I have done it a lot earlier, a few hours earlier, so I might drop a bit further. We will have to see as the day plays out, but I will see you afterwards for the overall results. And we're back, and you can see that I have only slipped slightly. I'm now down in 27th, which I'm not really too disappointed with at all. I found it quite tough in places, and I think only getting 1 mistake was actually very good, so I'm very happy with that. Firstly, well done to Severin for winning today's event, coming in fairly late with a time of 117, much quicker than me, and no mistakes. It does seem that quite a lot in the top 20 didn't make any mistakes at all, but in terms of where Severin won the event, it definitely seemed to be within station 3, where he was much quicker than most of the top 20, so very well done to him for doing so there. Let's have a look at the station percentages, and with station 1 it's looking like a real spread of wrong answers really. I don't really know where it's going to fall, but it seems the first 2 tasks were the worst answered. That's not really a surprise as people were still getting used to the stations, both with 59%, and there were a couple of main wrong answers here, being Alpha and Echo, but 443 managed to realise it was Bravo. I think this was quite hard to tell, and the only feature that you really had to use was the sort of tower on the path, but that definitely helped to place us, and with Alpha being on the same hill as Bravo, I'm not surprised quite a few of you did put Alpha. And also this 0 with 444 of you realising it was a 0, but 217 thought it was Foxtrot. Again, this was what I was debating between 0 or Foxtrot, but I think some of you realised at the final task that you were wrong for 12 and that Foxtrot was actually for the 5th task. However, still 239 of you did 0 this 5th task, only 2/3 managed to get it right, so we will have a look at those 3 tasks. Tasks 3 and 4 are actually well answered though, so if you managed to get those right, very well done. We then move to station 2, and I think this one is possibly going to look a bit greener. Maybe the 4th task might be slightly worse answered than the rest. And it was actually the 2nd and the 4th task which had the lowest percentages here of 64%. Looking at it, the numbers for the wrong answers are fairly even, to be honest. There's a key one for some of them, so for example 0 for the 1st task and alpha for the 2nd task. But with this 3rd task especially, if you were going to get it wrong, there were quite a few wrong answers you could put. But I think the average here was 60 to 70%, which isn't too bad at all. So I think we're mainly going to go and have a look at the 2nd and 4th tasks. The 2nd task was a 0, but 147 put alpha. However, I think it was clear to me at least that alpha was in the scattered trees area and the boulder field that we wanted wasn't. So I was happy with that one. I can see why 136 of you might have put Charlie though for the 4th task, and 57 of you went with Delta as well, because they were both on boulders, but they were on smaller boulders to Echo, and 476 managed to realise that and also put Echo. And not many of you were actually fooled by the double Bravo here. There was a similar number that put Bravo both times, but less did put it on the final task. So I will show you again that those two are definitely both Bravo. But overall, that wasn't a bad station at all. And then we go on to station 3, and it's looking like this 3rd task was actually much worse answered than the rest of them. Let's have a look at it. It is below 50%, it's 40%, with 298 realising it was a 0, but 290 went with Delta and 122 went with Echo. To me, Echo was too far to the right to be it, but I can definitely agree that with a 120-degree angle photo, you may not be completely sure of that. To me, it was definitely between Delta and 0, but I think we will see afterwards that I was right, that Delta was on the closest hill to us and we wanted the hill behind it. But that was definitely hard to grasp. And also this 2nd task being 58%, 177 put Charlie and 438 put a 0. Again, I thought it was clear that Charlie was on the left-hand boulder, and most of you realised this in the 5th task, which was Charlie, but I'm not surprised there were a few Charlies in that 2nd task, so we will go and have a look at that one again. And then we move to the final station, station 4, and I think really the final 2 look the best answered, and the first 3 don't look too well answered, but there is only one below 50%, being this 2nd task, and I think this was the one that I couldn't quite get my head around personally, and 184 of you also agreed with me that it was a 0, but 320 managed to get it right with Bravo, so very well done if you managed that. To me, the consoles just didn't seem to fit right, but I can agree that Bravo was on the spur in about the right place from where I'd related everything else, so I probably should have just gone with Bravo. But that is how it goes sometimes. I'm not surprised by the spread of wrong answers in this 1st task as well. I think 399 putting a 0 was probably slightly higher than I thought it would be, but if you don't know exactly where you are, then you potentially would have just done that. And 117 putting Alpha, I think this was the only candidate for me, but I think it was the wrong side of the depression, so we will have a look at that. And actually this 3rd task as well, there were quite a few for Delta and Echo. The Deltas I think were probably just a mispunch, because Delta was quite a long way back and not really near any boulders, but it was quite easy to miss one of the controls. But that didn't really matter anyway, because Echo was the wrong answer and it was a 0 on the wrong boulder. But we will have a look at those 3. I don't really think we need to look at 4 and 5 though, because I think you all managed to work it out from there and seem to answer those 2 very well, so well done for that. Let's go and have a look at these hard tasks though, and in looking at it, station 1, it was mainly the first 2 tasks here which were badly answered, and I think it was mainly just because we were coming into the station and you can't really see all the consoles behind the trees, but I think once we did the first 2 tasks things started to fit a lot better. Coming from this tower though, there could potentially be a small bump here, and so you may think that Alpha is on the 2nd bump already, but if you look at the contours they seem to get thinner here and then go up again, so I think this definitely shows that it does go up but does get flatter, and that seems to be what happens over here. We then go up to the first contour as we've said already with Alpha, and then down and up again with Bravo. Charlie is on the wrong end of that hill, so some of you might have gone with Charlie thinking it was the other end if you misread the centre of the circle, but I think now it should be very clear to you that that one is Bravo. And also this one being a 0, that is only a form line and not full contour, so the bump we want will be smaller than the Foxtrot bump, and this tower will be almost in line with it. So I think it is that bump there which is smaller than the Foxtrot bump, and I think some of you realised your mistakes there once we went to task 15 and it was Foxtrot. But those were tough tasks to start with, and I'm not really surprised there were some mistakes there. In Station 2, it was mainly the second and fourth tasks which were the worst answered. Most of you managed to notice Bravo on the top of the hill, so that was good. But in knowing that one's Bravo, this one is to the left-hand side and still in the white. And if you've noticed that Alpha is in the area of scattered trees, you know it can't be Alpha because it's not in the woodland. And if we're going to the left of Bravo, it can't be Charlie, Delta, Echo or Foxtrot because they're all to the right of Bravo. So it is definitely a 0 and probably that through there. And this one being Charlie, Delta or Echo, coming from the spur of Foxtrot, the Echo boulder is the first boulder you reach in the photo, and there are two smaller boulders back there with Charlie and Delta on them. And coming from the spur, you get the first boulder here as the one we want in the circle. So that one is definitely Echo, and I think again some of you can definitely clearly see your mistakes now. But that was another hard task to grasp, and I'm not surprised there were quite a few answers of Charlie and Delta. And most of you, after putting Bravo for the first task, also managed to put Bravo for the second task. There were slightly less of you, but I think to me it was definitely clear that Bravo is on the top of the hill and to the western side of that boulder. And when there are multiple ways of describing controls, you can throw them in as different tasks. So if you managed to spot that, very well done. If you doubted yourself and thought that it couldn't be Bravo again, just remember that it is possible. So make sure that you keep an eye out for that in later events. And then in Station 3, it was mainly the two zeros that were the worst answered. So I think you definitely had a good idea of the map. It was just trying to spot the tricks here. And this first one, I think you realised once we got to 35 that you had got this one wrong, because there are two boulders here out the front and we want the right hand one, which is definitely not the boulder that Charlie is on, so is definitely a 0. And this one I thought was very hard to tell, and I was wondering whether it actually was Delta afterwards, but I think we can't really see any other hills through there, so I had to believe, at least because of the distance it was from the boulders, that it was actually on the front hill. And it does seem to be on the southwestern side of that hill, but it is definitely the wrong hill. So well done for all of you that managed to zero that. That was the longest task for me in that station, and I definitely think it was the hardest one to tell. But yeah, that station definitely wasn't the hardest one though, because we come to this one, and I think most of you might have just got this one wrong accidentally because you don't really know. I was definitely thinking I don't really know where I am to start with, but once you notice these two hills, you definitely know we're going to the left hand side of the two hills, and Alpha just doesn't seem like it's in a depression. There is probably a depression further back from it. I think it is meant to be further back rather than to the left of it. But yeah, that one definitely was a 0. It was just very hard to tell. However, looking at all the controls, none of them are in the northern part of a depression. If Echo is in a depression, it's in the southern part. That's on a spur, that's on a spur, that one's on the top of a hill, and that one's on a spur as well. And Alpha just doesn't really seem to be in a depression over there. So in noticing that none of them are in depressions, it would definitely be a 0, but I think it was quite hard to tell potentially, and some of you might have just put a control that just seemed to fit in about the right place. This second 0, however, I'm still struggling to make fit properly, although maybe I can see it now. If we have the spur here, which Bravo is on, and I can definitely believe it's Bravo linking with these boulders, when it comes inward here, this is the re-entrance that we get here. So that definitely now seems to work. I think this was just a small error on my part, but to me this seems to extend a long way over, but I can also believe it does come round a bit. So that one is definitely Bravo, and that fooled quite a few of you, but I definitely think this was the hardest task in the day for me to grasp at least. So if it did, I wouldn't be too disheartened. And then this 0, I think most of you who put Delta probably just forgot about the Alpha kite, and so went Alpha, Bravo, Charlie and Delta, but it is definitely on the wrong boulder. You can see a boulder here that is to the left hand side of the Echo boulder, and so is another 0 regardless of whether this one is Delta or Echo. But I think with this station you managed to get the final two tasks right afterwards, so you definitely managed to work out where we were by the end of it, so very well done for doing that. And that does bring us to the end of this second day of some very interesting Swedish forest terrain. Let's go have a look and see what today has done to the final results. And it does seem like Antti has managed to make it into first place today after his 4th place yesterday and the 10th place today, closely followed by Tobias 3 points behind him and Petteri 0.2 points behind him. So it's looking very close at the top. There is a clear leader, but it is very close behind there. I have moved up from my 190th yesterday to 85th, so I'm still climbing, but I'm not surprised I'm this far down with that score from yesterday. yesterday. It is your best 8 of 9 events, as we can see here. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out over the next 7 days. Could be very close at the top here. In terms of the clubs, we can see that Massey have now taken the lead back from LS37 after they came 5th in the club scores today. Massey are now almost 9 points ahead of LS37, who are 12 points ahead of MTV Season. So it is looking like it's going to be close for the 1-2, and then it's going to be a competition for 3rd down below. In terms of my club MDoc, we're down in 6th now. That's not too bad at all, and I'm definitely looking forward to see how we can fight it out, especially for 3rd place, because I think these top 2 teams are running away with it as 1st and 2nd. And then finally with the countries, I'm not really surprised to say that the Finns are in 1st place. They are 13 points ahead of the Italians, who have managed to climb back up to 2nd place after their 3rd place yesterday, and the Swedes are 17 points behind them back in 3rd place. So it's definitely looking like the Finns are going to take this cup at the moment. They're definitely taking a strong lead to start with, so we will have to see how this plays out across the week. And yeah, that brings us to the end of the 2nd day of the Swedish Forest Cup. So that is the end of today's video. If you would like to like the video and also subscribe to the channel, it just makes sure you get notified whenever I release a video. However, if you aren't getting those notifications, you might just have to click the bell next to the subscribe button and click all. And also remember to share these videos. We're going to keep aiming to try and get 1,000 people on one of these events. I don't know when that will be, but I definitely think it's possible. So just make sure you're sharing this with all your orienteering friends who you think would enjoy having a go at this. And also, as always, remember to be commenting down below anything that you think I've missed from the analysis or want me to add to these videos. And with that, I will join you again tomorrow for day 3 of the Swedish Forest Cup.